Hi Geeta, how are you?
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I think we're in presentation mode, so I think everybody can now. But
Everybody can hear me. Hello, everyone.
we'll just we'll just wait. We'll just give it a few minutes, and then I'll introduce you, and we can get started from there.
Okay,
So I
so
think we.
should I try and get my slide up or
I,
not?
I don't think you need to right now. I think we've still got a couple of minutes. So I think as I start talking, it's probably okay. That might be a good time to start. Do you want to take questions at the end, or
Yes, because I think I am on my own.
yes, indeed.
So I will not be looking at the chat.
No, I'll look after the chat. So what will happen is I will keep an eye on the Q&A, and then I'll field all the questions at the end. So if there's any like technical issues, I think Wendy will probably deal with that in the chat, and then I'll deal with Q&A and field those questions to the end. Are you doing
Yes.
both on your own, or is Lovleen joining you for the
Lovleen
second?
will join me for the other one.
Okay.
So I think questions at the end, because in case this is being videoed,
Yeah.
it might create trouble, if it
Yeah.
is interrupted.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
think so as well. I think it really plays havoc with the timings as well, unless we do it that way. And it's just because in a conference setting, it's kind of difficult. We don't really have time to go sort of like there might be a really difficult question that you end up spending a lot of time on, and that'll just railroad the whole of your performance, your presentation rather. So
Yeah, exactly. So, and that may not be the most effective thing to do. So, I mean,
yeah,
normally, we don't mind. Or sometimes presentations can just stop halfway, but
yeah,
maybe not this one.
not on this occasion. We won't do
Yeah.
that this time. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes.
Unless, of course, people are really fed up with me, then they can kick me
Never.
out.
I very much doubt that situation will occur. I'm just going to switch my cam and mic off for a little bit, so maybe a couple of minutes before, because it's 19 minutes to at the moment, so 4 minutes.
Am I loud enough, Matt?
Definitely, I can hear you loud and clear. So that's the main thing. The audio is good, so I think we're all good to go. This is a slight change from my last one. I did one this morning. I chaired one this morning, but I couldn't actually get into the room. I was in the lobby, so I got stuck. And I got stuck there. So by the time we'd even started, we were already several minutes late, and it's just whereas this time we were actually nice and early, which is much nicer and a lot more relaxed.
Once I went very nice and early, and then to see the computer wouldn't start
Oh yeah.
in the room. So
I think we're
finally, it
used.
was so delayed.
Yes, that's right. I think we're sort of used to technical problems, aren't we? It's bewildering sometimes. It happens, time and time again, happens perfectly well, and then the one time you need it to, it just completely lets you down. Okay, I'll just leave it another minute, and then I'll get started, and that means that we'll start more or less bang on time. So I think that'll be good. Hello, everybody, and welcome to session 4A. I'm just going to get started a minute early so that Dr. Geeta can start more or less exactly on time. We have two really interesting sessions in this 4A, both with Dr. Geeta, and also we'll have Dr. Lovleen joining for the second one. This first one is called Welcome, Interact and Learn, Analysis of Group Assessment in a Large Class. So I'm personally very interested in this because dynamics and group are important to us all. I'm sure we're used to using groups and assessing in groups as well. So this is going to be a really interesting talk by Dr. Geeta, and I'll hand it over to you, Geeta.
Hello, thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming and also for watching my presentation. I am Dr. Geethanjali Selvaretnam, and everyone usually calls me Geeta, and I am from Adam Smith Business School at the University of Glasgow. My research project is called Welcome, Interact and Learn, an analysis of a group assessment in a large class. So what is this all about? So my presentation is basically to share some of my experiences, the use of a group assessment to deal with some issues that we recognized, and then some results from a qualitative analysis that I did. In these results, we will also find some benefits of these designs in terms of how the graduate skills of students have been developed and whether some learning has occurred in this. And then also, as I go along the presentation at certain points, I will also point out to how this design could have been better, because it's the first time I have tried this. So what is the first issue that I was thinking about? This is with the point that we have a large cohort of students who come to us from the Glasgow International College. Hereafter, I will call this GIC. And they come into the second year. So first year, we already have students at the University of Glasgow. And we have many students from GIC who come in to our second year economics courses. So not only economics, in many other programs also, GIC students join us. And in our second year, we have quite a lot of them. As you can see, this is in itself a large class. And about of students are from GIC. So 30% of the student population is from GIC. And for last year, 2021, we had sort of 40%. So I would say we have to expect about 1/3 to be this group. So this is in itself, actually, I look at it as a benefit, as a positive thing that we have so many students who are coming in. But the issue that we are facing is that they are coming into the second year. And given this large size of this group which comes into an already existing group, what we have noticed over the years is that these two groups of students, the GIC and the students from GIC and those who had not been, don't seem to interact with each other that much, as they progress through the degree. So this is one of the things that that I wanted to deal with. The other thing is, of course, many studies have shown that international students really do value cross-cultural interaction. There's a lot of literature which and I mean, that's why even I came here as an international student, and one of the great benefits I had was that I was able to interact with so many students from other countries. The other thing is the multicultural opportunity and the opportunity to develop multicultural skills. So this is not only for international students, but all students. So here is a great opportunity, and it is important that the students make use of this. So this is the first issue. The second issue is, of course, the course itself is a huge course, a very important course, which is core, and it is known to be a challenging course historically. And then it is a very large class with more than 400 students usually. And another very important and interesting fact about the course is this is the first course that students from GIC who come in and take the first economics course that they would take when they come in, because this is a second year course running in the first semester. So this is why I really wanted to make use of this course to do something about welcoming our GIC students and also create a culture where there is a lot of interaction and group working from the onset. So in such a course, obviously, group discussions and will be very helpful for students to when they are revising, and to also learn the key concepts of economics, that they have to learn for the rest of their degree programs, really. So group discussions are very useful for students. And during the lockdown period, we were aware that even the students who would make friends and make their own study groups may not be able to do so. So it would be good if we could facilitate that in some respect. So this is the second issue. The third issue is developing group skills. There are many studies which have shown, and also we also know that the job market values group working skills a lot. So this is a key graduate skill that we need to develop in our students. But unfortunately, many of us who have tried group assessments, and I have used group assessments quite a bit in my career, and usually the students don't take to it that positively. The students are worried that there will be others who will drag them down, they will free ride on them, and it's not fair. And then also interacting with students who are from different backgrounds or different study patterns, all these sort of things that students find a bit difficult. However, whether it's difficult or not, group skills have to be developed, and also the more positively one approaches this, the better. So this is another issue that we wanted to tackle. And most of the group activities we found in our economics programs happen in the honors courses. So of course, in our tutorials and live sessions, we do have give some activities, group activities for our students, but nothing formal as such. So in my previous group work research projects, some of the things that our students themselves have said is that it would be better if the group work assessments are introduced in the non-honors years, in the first or second year, so that students can actually develop this group working skills and then go into their honors years to do the group work a little bit more equipped. So which is actually a very good point. And also, when you're starting off your degree in the non-honors years, the students will be more willing to try different new assessments such as group work, and also working with students from different backgrounds and skills, because you're more open to trying new things, isn't it, when you go to university? So it is important that we start these things at the beginning itself. And also, finally, when students get to honors years, they are already thinking about their first class degree, second upper. Different students might have different ambitions. Whereas although second year is also crucial in order to get through the barrier and enter the honors years, still there's a bit less pressure of grades, and maybe the students are not that worried about getting dragged down, I think. So this is probably another thing that we thought about. Okay, so coming to the assessments and what we did. So in the 2021-22 academic year, in microeconomics, which is a 20 credit course, we had 4 assessments. Now, I know some of you might think this is too much, but this is actually a beneficial thing that we have given to the students, which the students also seem to have agreed. But before this year, before 2021-22, we only had 2 assessments. We had an in-course exam and a degree exam. So please ignore the 40% because in the previous years, obviously it should make up the 100%, okay? So we had just these 2 assessments. What we have done is, so in this case, introduced 2 group assessments. One group assessment, this one, is linked to the in-course exam. And this group assessment 2 is linked to the degree exam. So this is the way it was designed. And as you can see, the way we went about it is that this group assessment, which was also, it was a multiple choice questions. And this was a revision opportunity for students to do their in-course exam. And the same for this, the second assessment as well. Now, within this course itself, now, because we have 2 group assessments, the students could further develop their group skills as they move into the second assessment. Okay, but as you can see, this is only a little bit of marks, not too much, but it's high enough to make it useful for students to engage in. So today's presentation is only about this first assessment. I do have data on the second assessment also. So this research project will develop further than what I'm going to present here. So the group description. So we had, as I already told you, 473 students in this year with 140 students from GIC. So the original thinking I had was to have 2 students from GIC in each group, and the group size to be around 6. So that was the original thinking. But what we ended up with, because we had to administer this huge big cohort of students. So we had 81 groups, and then we had 68 groups with 6 students and 13 groups with 5. And then 59 groups had 2 GIC, and actually too many, 22 groups had only 1 GIC student. So this went against my main plan. So this is my first lesson, which going forward to improve, to think a bit more, be a bit more vigilant about this. So the problem was, because this was the first semester, first course, a big course, students were moving across courses, and it was a bit confusing for us. We thought we had organized the groups, and then to see we had to reallocate students and things. So it created a bit of trouble. Given another chance, I would have had 70 groups with 2 GIC in each, and made up of 53 groups with 7 students and 17 with 6 students. This is what I would have done if I had the chance again. So the assessment, as I said, was 30 MCQ questions for this assessment 1. Assessment 2 actually had some open-ended questions also. But so this was MCQ, but they were rather challenging, so that students needed to think and discuss. And 10% of the grades were for that. The assessment was in week 7, and it covered my half of the course, which was weeks 1 to 5. Then the groups, I shouldn't say created, it was sort of released to the students 3 weeks before the assessment, so that it gives time for the students to get to know each other and plan how they will approach this assessment. But the assessment itself was released only in week 7. Okay, so the groups were created beforehand. And then the other thing is that the groups continued, the same groups continued into the second assessment. So they know each other even better. Right. So assessment, then the assessment itself, what we did was, because we were all in this online setting, and even so, this is a group assessment, so we should release things a bit earlier. So what we did was we released the assessment 3 days before the deadline. So, and the students knew when it will be released so that they can plan when they are going to meet, how they are going to tackle this assessment and so forth. So the assessment was released on Monday and then the submission was made on Thursday. And the way we organize this is made one student like a group representative, and this rep will sort of submit the answers. Okay, because one person only could submit. And the other main thing is for all the students to complete this assessment, they needed to fill in a survey questionnaire. So for survey questionnaire did not have any marks attached to it. However, they needed to complete it in order for the assessment to be completed. So the survey questionnaire was trying to elicit different points, issues from the students on learning, about learning, interaction, and how well they participated. We have ethics approval for this, and we had 6 Likert type questions and just 2 open-ended questions. And then I also had a question about unengaged group members, because as I said, one of the challenges is that students think there will be free riders, students won't engage. And not only that, you know, we also want to encourage students to engage in group work in order to develop their skills. So I won't go through the questions because I am going to now go through each of these questions and the results. So hopefully it will not be too time consuming. So the objectives, as I said, revision opportunity, active learning opportunity to develop group skills, for students to interact across different backgrounds, cultural as well as their educational backgrounds, different types of students. Then another objective is for the students to be able to reflect upon the learning and the group skill development that had occurred, and also try to deter free riding for students to develop some good work ethics. So these are the objectives. So I will start off with the last question because it's a bit of an outlier. So basically, the question was, I asked the students, all the students, to name a member of the group who did not contribute to the assessment and give a bit of an explanation about that. So not many students wrote it, but what I could do is, you know, if in the same group, if several students are naming the same person, then I earmark that student and contact that student and have a bit of a discussion either face-to-face or through email. Everything happened through email because no one wanted to see me. So, but the opportunity was there to ask what happened. Did you really engage? You don't seem to have engaged, and so forth. And then if the student does say, okay, I did all these things, so I did engage, then I can go back to the group who said that they did not engage and ask what this was all about. But we did not get any issues, any situations where there was a dispute, you know. So finally, if there was no engagement, then basically that student gets a grade H. So some of you might want to ask me about this, but let's talk about it later. So from this, we found that 5 students were totally unengaged in the course. So, I mean, we don't have to worry about them. Then there were 3 students who didn't engage in both the group assessments, but they did the individual assessments. So out of the 373, only 3 such people. But I think I should have, in the future, I will earmark these such students. I need to actually meet them to figure out why they are not engaging in group work and also encourage them to do that. I still have time to do this, so I might still do it, but the point is I have not done it yet. So green. So 10 students who are unengaged in the first assessment then got emails and got punished because of that, and they did engage in the second assessment, which was great. But I also found another issue that I should have thought about. Now, there were students who were quite engaged in the first group assessment, but they did not engage in the second assessment. So they probably, though, because they had engaged in the first assessment, they may not have realized the repercussions of not engaging, you see. So they happily didn't engage in the second. So this is why another lesson for me is before the second group assessment, we should reiterate the fact that those who did not engage were penalized. So please do engage. So I could have done that. Another issue, this was not about my assessment. This problem arose in the second group assessment. One group, the representative who was supposed to submit the assessment forgot to do it. So no submission by this group. So that was a great pity. So we have to think of a way in which, maybe send a notification to the students when the submission is made or something, so that the other group members are aware. Now, I do think that the students should also be alert and ask the representative, did you submit and all that. But anyway, we could maybe take some step to prevent it. Okay, so time is going, so I will try to quickly go through. So my group members contributed well to this assessment. As you can see, 93% agree or strongly agree. Opportunity to do these questions as a group enhanced my understanding of the material. Also about 84% are agreeing. I would get a better grade because we did the assessment as a group. Also, many students have said, so 70% have said yes, but as you can see, 23% are neutral about this. I will continue to interact with at least some of my group members. So 74% of them have said that, which is really, I am very happy about this, that we have done something which might be of some use to the students. And I benefited by this opportunity to interact with students from diverse cultural backgrounds, which may not have happened otherwise. So that also, surprisingly, 76%, which is quite a high number, have said, agreed to this. Some strongly disagree, probably because they interact cross-culturally anyway, so that could be a reason. Then I also asked the students, did you attempt the questions before you interacted with the group? Because it's important that they think about the questions themselves before the group discussion. Most students have done that, all the questions, 50 to 60%, and then more than 20%, 20 questions, also 22% of the students. So I am happy with this, but I also would encourage these other lot who have not attempted all the questions, maybe to do that. Then we have two questions which are qualitative: benefits and the challenges of working in such a group project. Sorry, Matt, can you give me a few minutes?
I was just talking to the group. Just ignore what I put in the chat there.
So, I will just quickly go through this. So main challenges, as you can see, about meeting, because of time zones, students are finding it difficult to get a convenient time and place to meet. And we also have challenges about completing the assessment, because mainly, coming to an agreement with on the answer when there are so many different answers to this. Now, this point, there is actually quite a beneficial thing, but they have also pointed it out as a challenge. Now, some students are saying it was a bit embarrassing and they were nervous about sharing their knowledge, but this also was a good thing because then they could overcome these things and develop their skills. Engagement, as you can see, some language barriers were pointed out by students who were not English speakers, they're like first language speakers, but it's only about 14 out of the 314 comments about this. And there are about, so 25 students have made the point about disengaged students and unengaged and unequal contribution. But I mean, comparatively, it is not that many which have been written about this. And then we had some technological difficulties and not a good platform for them to interact with each other. So there are many benefits that the students have pointed out, that it has increased their confidence in communication and also persuasion skills, because they had to explain to each other why their answer is a bit different to the others and so forth. Sharing ideas and group work planning and accomplishment, a lot of nice points students have said about that they have really developed their skills. As you can see, 92 comments about this. Then also content knowledge, where I am weak, someone else is strong, and I learned from them. Then there was also the chance, because the students worked on their own and then met with the group, they could compare with each other and discuss all the differences. And really a lot of learning was happening because of that. Well, 10 comments about it was giving them a better grade probably. Then we have opportunity to meet other course mates, interact and all that. And a very nice thing, supporting each other. There were 18 comments. The benefit was having a support system, someone to lean on. And also, you might remember there was another comment about anxiety before. My personal anxiety made it difficult for me to share my answers, but my group made it a comfortable and safe environment to share. So I thought it was really brilliant. So I will carry on doing the work on this. So I have to do a bit more coding, maybe subdivide things, analyze the second survey a bit more, and then check how this has helped the students in the future. Maybe I can interact with course coordinators in the next coming 2 years to see how these students fare in the group work. Sorry.
That's okay. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Geeta. That was, I think, really interesting, especially for those of us who teach large groups and who kind of conjure with this real problem. How do we build an online community? That's really helped me personally. I'm going to use some of those ideas for sure. So that's been really, really helpful. And you're getting lots of applause there. I'm actually going to abuse my position a little bit and ask you a question, if you don't mind. And that is whether you've considered. So you spoke about sort of policing these groups, something I'm really interested in. I just wondered whether you considered or taken account of self-policing, like the extent to which these groups police themselves, and if there are any ways to assist them in that sort of self-policing thing. Do you think there's any virtue in adding self-policing to those other methods that you discussed?
So yes. So Matt, I do believe mostly on self-policing. So I think I am hoping that since not many students got into trouble, there was a lot of self-policing. So if you go through the comments, you see students are unengaged. We kept finding different ways to find them, accommodate them. So students were meeting twice with one group and another group. So they were doing a lot they themselves, finding ways, so that is itself group skill development. So this is, I think, in a way, by asking students, is there anyone who was fully unengaged? One thing, it also allows us to find someone who might fall off the radar. It's also a duty of care, Matt. It's not only policing as such. It's so this is an opportunity to find. I mean, in the lockdown situation, we don't know what on earth is happening outside, right? So therefore, this was a chance. And the other thing is,
so much.
Yes. So asking this question also
gives
confidence to the student that, what has happened? Yes, so that we are concerned about free riding, so just to give them that confidence. Yes, but I agree with you. Self-policing is the way to go.
Yeah, thank you. It's just really interesting. Lynn Bradley also says, brilliant ideas. How did you settle on a group size of 6? I tend to use smaller groups to try and avoid the free rider issue. So about group size, and then I think we'll have to wrap it up after that question.
Yes, because I mean it was large. Smaller would be, yes. I mean, small means 3 or 4 is usually my group size, my usual group size. We thought because this is such a large class, you know, and but I will take your point, Lynn. So if more people think like that, then I'll go for it.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same position. I have a very large course and I end up with group sizes of sort of 5 or 6, just because I'd end up with maybe 200 groups or 180 groups if I had a smaller one. But yeah. See the trade-off and the balance there. Anyway, that's it. We're going to move on to our next one. That was really interesting, Geeta. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. And I'm sorry that I couldn't go through the things more slowly. Maybe, hopefully, you will see the slides. The slides will be shared.
Yeah. The slides are going to be shared on the conference website. So, so there's an opportunity there to take a look at those in a bit more detail. So thanks very much for that, Geeta. And you're back on again because now you're back on with Lovleen. Welcome, Lovleen, to the stage. Lovleen, hi there. Geeta and Lovleen are going to be talking to us another really important point, very important over COVID-19, where we relied quite a lot on the idea of the self-regulated learner. So we're going to look at that. So this presentation is called Developing Self-Regulated Learners Using a Unique Reflective Summative Assessment. So over to you two. Thanks very much.
Okay, so welcome again, and thank you for staying on, watching and listening to our presentation. So I won't read out the title of our presentation again. So I'm Dr. Geethanjali Selvaretnam, Geeta, as most people know me. And I'm really very happy to be presenting this paper with my colleague, Dr. Lovleen Kushwah. Actually, this whole the project is based on Loveleen's course, and she has done a brilliant job in that. So we are very excited to be involved in this project, really. So self-regulated learners, and also because of this unique style of assessment. So first I will go through some literature about self-regulated learning, to which our project is linked to, some objectives and motivations behind this project, and the main thing is our assessment design and how this links to self-regulated learners. Oh,
Geeta, I'm very sorry to interrupt. Could you switch to presentation mode, because we're just seeing a very small.
How do I do that?
But if you go back to sharing your screen,
yes,
as you were before, and then in the PowerPoint itself, you'll see there's a little icon down towards the bottom of the screen which puts it into presentation mode, like when you want to. Because what we've got at the moment is a layout of all the slides.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Oh, is that so?
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. And we are
running
short of time also. And I am doing this here. Is this correct now?
If you click on at the bottom of the screen, right next to the magnification bar, bottom right, there's a little kind of icon you can click, or you can click on just.
No, I am sharing the. So I am sharing the full. The presentation mode is what I was.
Go to the right. Just go right one more icon, 2 more icons. So just go to the right a little bit.
Can you see my?
Yeah, I can see where your cursor is, and you just need to move another 2 there. Click on that. That should work.
So it is. Is it working?
Okay. No, it doesn't seem to be. That's strange.
Yeah. So I think never mind.
Well, we can see it. We can see it. Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted. You can carry on. I do apologize.
Yeah, that's a pity because actually this presentation mode is rather important for my presentation. But
Geetha, do
anyway,
you
never
want
mind.
me to try it? Geetha, do you want me to try it from my end?
Okay. Okay, lovely. I don't know why that is. Because I did it just now, isn't it? With mine.
Yeah, you're working. It was working just before in your earlier presentation, but sorry, everybody. I think it would be worth just see if we can get this into proper presentation mode so that you can see it. Ooh.
Does it work now?
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'll take the.
Well done, Lovleen. Well done. Right. So I'll just carry on. Lovleen, I'm looking at my slides, so you just sort of catch up with me, okay? Okay, so self-regulated learning is quite an important thing. So therefore, we have just put in a very nice quote by Pintrick and Zusho about self-regulated learning, which I won't read through, but it will be there in the slides. Okay. So there are, as I said, there's a whole lot of literature about self-regulated learning as a valuable skill to be developed. First of all, one thing to understand is when as teachers, when we give feedback to our students, or they get feedback from any other source, it is going to be sort of useless unless they actually internalize this feedback. The other point is the high-level feedback, as the literature calls it, like process feedback, self-regulatory feedback and things, are very difficult for the teachers to give. So most of the feedback that we might give would be content-related feedback and maybe something about the structure of the presentation and things. So the high-level feedback has to be, it would be more worthwhile if the students themselves can generate these. And the literature has found that they can indeed do so. But as teachers, what we can do is to create opportunities for them to generate this internal feedback. Think of different activities that we can set to facilitate this. Okay, and so the university is very much into active learning for our students, and any activities that we might set our students to facilitate inner feedback generation would have active learning incorporated in them. Now, in the business school, Professor David Nicol has been working with several colleagues on some literature which is about self-regulated learning and internal feedback generation. And the main idea with this is that the internal feedback should be made explicit if it is to be effective, if self-regulation is to be effective. So this is one thing to bear in mind. It will become a bit more clear when I show you the assessment design. The other thing is that we need to give a comparator for students to compare the work that they had done themselves with. And so the students do some work on their own and then they compare that against something else, which we would provide. It is going to create a lot of internal feedback for them. So some examples that we have already done in other papers, I have just put here. But our paper, our research project is going to use another comparator, a different type of comparator. So here are the things that our study is about. So I won't read through these things because I'm going to talk about this, and then Lovleen will also come in and give the main findings. So I will just move to the next slide. Okay. So the assessment design. So Lovleen, are we on assessment design?
Yes.
So I hope, yes. So stage one, the first stage, the student is going to complete a task that Lovleen has set in her course. And this is going to be a formative assessment. And then after the students have done that, the students will be answering a survey, which we are calling survey A, with some reflective questions. And the questions are going to ask about the students' perception about their performance, and also if they have recognized any learning gaps. So these are the sort of things the survey A is going to elicit. Then stage 2, we provided the students with an expert's written solution as well as a video solution. So there was an expert who did the same task, and this video and the written solution were provided to the students. And then after this was given to them, then we also gave another survey, which is called survey B. And these reflective questions were asking about what have they learned. Okay, so this is the assessment design. Now in the next slide, we are going to look at how the mechanism of self-regulated learning is happening by us designing the assessment in this way. Okay. So I forgot to also say that the summative assessment is actually the 2 surveys. So normally, in other places, in my previous presentation also, I said the survey didn't have any marks, whereas the assessment did. Whereas in Lovleen's thing, she has made the student's task as a formative assessment, and then the surveys are the summative assessment. So this is really very nice and unique, and I think it gets the students to learn a lot and generate a lot of internal feedback. Okay, so here we are, the mechanism. Student completes a task, and then the student is going to compare what they have done, what he or she has done, with the assessment criteria, lectures, the reading material, and so forth, and generate some feedback, right? And this feedback, the inner feedback or internal feedback that is being generated, will be written down as answers to the reflective questions. So the reflective questions were also designed to elicit this so that they can keep thinking how well they have performed and so forth. Then the main thing, the stage 2 expert solution and the videos, once that is available, whether we tell the students or not, the students are going to compare this with what they have done already, right? Because they have already done the task. So they are now in their minds comparing what they have done with what the expert has done. And this is going to generate a lot of feedback, enough feedback for our students. And this is also going to be elicited from through the reflective questions. So this is the survey 2, survey B, right? So these answers to the survey questions are going to update their knowledge. And this is what we call as making inner feedback explicit. So, even if we had not given these reflective questions, the students will be generating some feedback in their minds. But the fact is, we are giving them the opportunity to think about what they have learned and write it down. It is really going to cement this feedback they have generated in their minds, and also create opportunities to think and create even more feedback. And the other thing is the comparator that we have given is the expert's video solution and a written solution, which is something that we have still not, we haven't seen any other papers analyzing the effect of this. So what is the formative assessment that Lovleen has said? It is about the students were asked to find 3 reliable macroeconomic data sources. Okay, so students in economics have to be the whole time finding data sources and getting good data for their analysis and their dissertations in the future and all. So 3 reliable sources. And then also find in those data sources, find different macroeconomic variables which she had named. And once they do that, they need to validate their data using historical data which was provided to them. Okay, so this validating the data is a techniques which Lovleen would have talked about and explained to them in the past. So they will use all those skills in order to do this. So these are the survey questions that we gave. So the first survey 1, which was about how well they had done and any learning gaps that they could identify. So how confident are you about the answer? Then did you have a clear idea about what was required? Then strengths and weaknesses. And the students were also asked, if you had an expert around, what would you have asked the expert? Okay. And then the survey B is about what the students have really learned after watching the video. So, and the video and also the written answer. So here we are asking, did it make you aware of any weaknesses or strengths in your answer? So what are the new things that you learned about yourselves after looking at this? How, and the other thing is, how could you have improved your answer now that you have seen this? Did it benefit your learning? How did it benefit your learning? And so forth. Okay. Then the second part of it was also about what did you learn from this which you can take into future work. So this is how you might approach the question, anything that they have learned in this assessment that they can take to the future courses or even their life in general. So the other nice question that we also asked was telling the students there are various ways in which they might get feedback. But what did they think about using a video as a feedback tool? So that I thought, we also thought is an important question to ask them. Okay, so the data collection and methodology. So this was a course in international finance, and the data came from the reflections that the students had written. So from the survey questions and the end of course evaluation as well. We have, so we had the ethics approval for this. 49 out of 53 students agreed, consented to participate in the research. So these are the answers we are using for our research analysis. And this is a qualitative analysis with coding and a thematic analysis. So, okay, Lovleen. Lovleen will give us the golden nugget now.
Thank you, Geeta. Hello, everyone. So now I will discuss some of the preliminary findings of this research with you. And the analysis is basically still work in progress. So I will share with you some of the interesting things that have come up so far. So our current findings, which I categorized into 6 different areas. So the first one is the effect of non-grade. So here you will see some of the comments that students have written about effect of having like an assessment or a task. Basically, formative assessment was not graded. So when incorporated as a part of summative assessment, non-graded nature of formative assessment basically had little influence on most students' choice of effort. Some students indicated that they would have taken the formative exercise seriously anyways, even if it was graded or not. However, remaining students said that they would have invested more time, effort, and done the exercise more carefully if that task was graded. So clearly there is, students are really taking into account whether the assessment is summative or not. Then, Then the next key finding is around benefits to students. This was pertaining to the question on how has attempting the exercise before watching the expert's video benefited students' learning. And here we see that there are different areas in which students found that this exercise really helped them. Mostly these comments were around gaining clarity of the process of working through practical problems, or enhancing knowledge, subject knowledge, enhancing research skills, data skills. A few students also said that they probably prefer to skip the process and rather have the answer key given to them directly. Then there were students who also talked about being able to practice previously gained skills in this kind of exercise. And they really appreciated the future applicability of this sort of a process through which they learn to work with data, and basically the task which was formative was not graded. In addition to that, students also talked about soft skills that they gained. So for example, becoming more confident, being independent, being curious, working intuitively and spontaneously. So these were some of the recurrent themes that were emerging when we were looking at some of students that they benefited from this exercise. Then the third category was around various feedback formats. So in this particular one, we were looking at 2 questions from the survey B. And first one was about the several forms of giving feedback to students. So we talked about individual written feedback, verbal feedback. And since the students have seen how this video feedback worked, what were their thoughts about using such a tool for feedback? So students basically, if we look at the data, we found that most of the students preferred using video solution to generate their own feedback compared to getting written feedback. And this was so for especially when they are solving practical problems, as video feedback basically provides a visual aid. Now, given all that, they still preferred individual feedback because it perhaps allowed for potential debate, as some of the students mentioned. Then there was also another question about, do you need any more comments on your own work from the expert now that you have watched the video? And there were like around 16 students who indicated that the expert's feedback was sufficient and they did not need any additional feedback on their work. And almost equal number of students indicated that they would need teachers' feedback on one specific thing at least. So there were some areas where students identified where they needed more help. So you can see this in the last comment where the student writes, I'm curious about how to find information on the component parts of the capital account. So here clearly students are basically separating the wheat from chaff and telling the lecturer or the marker that this is where I need help now. So this was something very interesting that emerged. In terms of application to future work, as I mentioned before, this is work in progress, and we are still looking at the number of students with responses under various category themes. And here what we identified in general is that students talked about learnings related to data, subject, and analysis. They're talking about how to approach a problem and think about it when working on something in the future. They are also thinking about how to gain more clarity about theoretical concepts, and also that the feedback from the expert, the way it was provided, is giving them a holistic perspective. So this quote from one of the students I found very interesting was that replicating this skill will definitely improve the quality of my work in the future. I learned how to compare different years and look at trends. This was extremely beneficial and reminded me that I need to take my dissertation to the next step by involving more analysis. So remember, this is an international finance course, and this is taken by honors students, third and fourth year student both together. So at some point of time, third year students will be writing their dissertation, and some of the fourth year students were already involved in the dissertation process. So this shows that how students have started looking at it from a more transferable point of view. Another thing which we did was a pre and post feedback comparison. And this basically refers to two questions in different surveys. So for example, I'm looking at students when we ask them, how confident are you about your answer in the lab session, the task that you did? And they would respond in terms of how confident they felt. And then we looked at the second survey and looked at the question where we asked students to talk about whether the expert video made them aware of their strength, weaknesses, or any insight that they have basically got about it. So we can see that many students had consistent and clear view on their confidence level, pre and post feedback, which is basically reinforcing their perception. And then for others for whom the perception changed, the feedback comparison helped them identify areas where they could improve. So for example, what is required for an excellent answer. And then students' confidence was also enhanced when they actually realized that they did over and above what was required. So this you can see in some of the comments here. And also something we noticed was that expert support and guidance through the video basically is required, and it is valued by students, both confident and those who don't feel confident. So for confident students, this comes across as a help to know how to do things quickly, how to go in depth when they are doing some analysis, learning shortcuts, or learning some less time consuming methods. This can also be helpful in differentiating good from bad, especially when there is plethora of information available online. And it's difficult for students to know whether something is useful or not. And in the case of not too confident students, basically it helps them, those who struggle with the analysis part, especially with the validation of the data. And then it also teaches them how to be precise and specific in the context of a given topic. So in summary, we have created a form of assessment and feedback that highlights the importance of involving students in identifying areas of development through reflection, inner and external feedback process. It reviews their perception and adjusting their expectations of teachers' feedback, and engages students in formative activity without overwhelming them. So if you remember, basically the task that was involved, it was formative. The only thing that was summative was their reflection. So they are taking chances, they are taking risks while doing the task. And it also highlights the importance of teachers' feedback in supporting students to get more specific help and reinforcing instructions that students might have ignored given plethora of information. And lastly, it provides a set of reflective questions and feedback tools to assist self-regulated learning. So in conclusion, I would say is that all this has helped us basically create something which is also targeting some of the sustainability goals, basically through continuous learning, encouraging students to notice links between their own learning and real world, and designing formative activity that helps students prepare for summative assignments. And lastly, I would say that this methodology can transcend discipline in courses, especially where you have problem-solving requirements. So we would recommend you to have a reflection-based assessment, because reflection reinforces learning, it develops insight, and helps regulate own learning for students. And one more thing I would say is that it's highly recommended to design assessments that interlink formative and summative assessment if you're interested in increasing student engagement and support students through scaffolding. So thank you, everyone. And I'm open to any questions if you have something that's not been clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lovleen and Geeta. Thank you, Lovleen, for coming to our rescue with the screen share. That was a great talk. Again, I really enjoyed that. And I think it's so important right now because we are relying more and more on student-led learning. And I think we found in 2020 that we don't get that unless we create a structure for that to happen. So that's really, I think that's a really timely talk. Thank you for that. Lynn has asked, very impressive. Were you able to see the views of individual students before and after? Will you use this approach again?
So I will take this question because I am the one who's teaching international finance course. And I'll be the one who will be grading the reflections in the future as well. I think so. It's not. This is a tool that has been created not to be, fixed in for one course. So what I'm thinking is basically use the design and apply it in different format in different parts of the course. So maybe not for the formative activity, like I interlinked it with the summative assessment. It could be also applied to other parts as well. So I will definitely use this approach again, but in different kind of setup for future, and perhaps in different courses as well.
Thank you. We've run out of time, but I really enjoyed that. I'm sure looking at the applause there that everyone else did as well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks so much for coming, everyone. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt, for